On Thursday morning, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin testified to the House Armed Services Committee on Capitol Hill that his lack of notifying the president about his hospitalization earlier this year didn't affect national security.
I want to be very clear. There was never any lapse in authorities or in command and control. At all times, either I or the Deputy Secretary was in a position to conduct the duties of my office. But we did have a breakdown in notifications during my January stay at Walter Reed, and that is sharing my location and why I was here. And back in December, I should have promptly informed the President, my team in Congress, and the American people of my cancer diagnosis and subsequent treatment. Again, we did not handle this right, and I did not handle it right. As you know, I've apologized, including directly to the President, and I take full responsibility. I'm also taking responsibility for some institutional changes to make sure that this cannot happen again.
Those changes being 8 recommendations to improve the notification process and transfer of authority. Those include full information sharing with the Deputy Secretary of Defense and the creation of written guidelines for better information sharing. The Secretary was diagnosed with cancer in early December, but said he didn't want to burden the President and didn't notify him. The Secretary was rushed by ambulance on New Year's Day to Walter Reed Medical Center for a urinary tract infection where he remained hospitalized. The department transferred authority to Kathleen Hicks, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, but didn't notify the President until January 4th. That's something the committee chairman didn't mince his words about.
It's totally unacceptable that it took 3 days to inform the President of the United States that the Secretary of Defense was in the hospital and not in control of the Pentagon. Wars were raging in Ukraine and Israel. Our ships were under fire in the Red Sea, and our bases were bracing for attack in Syria and Iraq. But the Commander-in-Chief did not know that his Secretary of Defense was out of action. Even the Deputy Secretary, the person to whom your powers were transferred, didn't know that you were in the hospital.
Hicks was in Puerto Rico on vacation, and the unclassified summary of the 30-day review of the matter states that she was positioned to take over. Austin maintained that he was a patient and expected his staff to notify the proper channels, and he said he didn't even have a phone to communicate.
In terms of the hospitalization, January 1st throughout, again, I was the patient. And so my expectation is that the organization informed the right agencies.
Okay, so it wasn't your fault. It was the staff's fault.
Well, I didn't have access to any kind of communications during that time.
You didn't have a phone, nothing?
No.
Okay, that's interesting. Maybe we should reform the processes at the hospital to allow phones in there.
The Secretary ultimately took the reins again on January 5th. In the hearing, he said that 2 of the 8 recommendations from the review are now implemented, and the remaining 6 have 30 days from Monday to go into effect.